Welcome to the AI for Good Global Summit here in Geneva, and I'm delighted now to be joined by Dr. Rumman Chowdhury. Good to have you here. Now, you're CEO of Humane Intelligence. Maybe first of all, you can tell me what that is.
Yes, well, thank you for having me. Humane Intelligence is a tech nonprofit that's building the global community for testing and evaluating AI models.
And you're also, and we'll get to this, sounds pretty cool, you're this US Science Envoy for AI. We'll touch on that in a second. But obviously the key theme running through the summit is governance. And we've been listening in, participating in some of those debates. What's your take on all that?
Well, the field of AI governance is exploding in a really good way. A couple of things that I'm really optimistic to see is just the sheer number of multi-stakeholder groups participating meaningfully in what global governance is, and using their expertise and knowledge historically in working with their communities to be part of this global conversation on governance. Now there's like multiple satellite events or the events happening here. I mean, there's just such a conversation happening. It almost feels like there's two conferences. There's what you're seeing on stage, and then there's other meaningful conversations happening between different groups, connecting, learning, and growing.
I guess the question is the governance, I mean, do you think it's important in your position?
Not just important, I think it's needed. I think it's needed for the technology to flourish. I think it's needed for us to trust the technology, and trust is a precursor to us using it and benefiting from it.
Technology moves so fast, can governance catch up?
I think that's been a very prominent conversation, what's happening in the room, right, in a lot of the governance workshops that I'm in. I will say, it's been about a year since we started talking about global governance, and we have global safety institutes, we have UN working groups, we have OECD working groups. So I think it's not even speculation anymore. I think we can safely say that, yes, it can.
But what happens if certain don't want to participate in governance? Then doesn't it kind of make the system flawed?
Well, there's voluntary governance, and then there are the laws that are passing. So, Brazil just passed a comprehensive bill that's going to be under scrutiny and review. We have the EU AI Act, we have the Digital Service Act, Digital Markets Act. In the US, we have state-level laws passing. So there will be the soft power style standards regulation, and then there will also be the laws that are passing.
As I said earlier in the intro, you're the science envoy for AI. So are you kind of like the White House's go-to person?
Well, there are many brilliant people working in the White House on artificial intelligence that have been drawn from a wide range of fields. My role is to, represent a scientific perspective, abroad, working with different countries, different, digital ministers and leaders to help people think through the impact of artificial intelligence. So my specific field of interest is not just in developing, but developing responsibly. And sometimes with a lot of the, pro-innovation versus governance narrative, I try to be in the middle and say one can innovate and frankly can only innovate if you do it responsibly.
So when you head back to Washington, what will you be taking back, and what's the message you'll be bringing from the summit?
Well, two things. One is that, as I've mentioned, the world of global governance is really escalating in a positive way. I think people are moving into practical matters of what it looks like to implement governance and moving past sort of the high-level narratives. That would be one takeaway. The second is, I would be curious to see what role the global north can play in engaging the global majority to be part of the global governance conversation. There is a bit of a divide that still exists. A lot of the global majority conversations are about capacity building, data collection, that kind of thing, and governance seems like a far reach, but it shouldn't be.
You're an optimist, or are you an optimist by nature?
I am definitely an optimist by nature, but I am also an optimist for AI.
Okay, interesting. Dr. Chowdhury from Humane Intelligence, thanks very much for your time. And we'll have so much more coming up here on the AI for Good Global Summit, so do stay tuned.